always did it by major championships. That was always how you measured. Jones with 13 major championships. I think Walter Hagen had 11 major championships.
When you are the son of Jack Nicklaus, your last name carries more weight than most tournament trophies. Reporters line up before you've even teed off in a real tournament, already hungry for a story, and every fan who sees you expects greatness. That's the life Gary Nicklaus inherited from the moment he first held a golf club. As the son of the Golden Bear, winner of 18 majors, Gary's path was never just his own. To many, he wasn't Gary, he was Jack's boy, and that shadow is both a blessing and a burden. So the question is, would that weight crush him, or would he find a way to rise above it? The answer isn't simple, and it takes us on a journey filled with promise, pressure, and a few moments that nearly rewrote his story. So let's rewind and see what it really meant to grow up as Gary Nicklaus. Jack Nicklaus wasn't just a great golfer, he was the golfer. By the time Gary was old enough to play junior tournaments, Jack had already become a household name, a larger-than-life figure with a resume that made entire generations of players look insignificant. For Gary, this meant two things. Doors swung open and expectations poured in. Coaches, journalists, and fans expected him to dominate simply because of genetics. He grew up practicing at Muirfield Village, surrounded by champions and watching his father compete on the grandest stages. He wasn't allowed the luxury of being ordinary. Every junior win became a headline. Every loss became a disappointment. It's hard to overstate the psychological weight of that. Imagine standing over a 5-foot putt, knowing the world is silently asking, is he as good as Jack? That was Gary's everyday reality. Despite the pressure, Gary proved himself a capable amateur. He was competing at Ohio State University, the same school where his father had cemented his legend decades earlier. While in college, Gary showed flashes of brilliance, enough to convince many that he might, in time, carve out his own success. In 1990, Gary qualified for the U.S. Amateur, a tournament where his father had once left his mark. Though he didn't win, just qualifying added fuel to the comparisons. By late 1991, he had made the decision to turn professional. But here's the reality. Professional golf is unforgiving. Thousands of golfers chase a limited number of spots. Talent gets you in the door, but it's resilience that keeps you inside. Gary was entering a world where every week is survival. Mini tours, sponsors exemptions, Monday qualifiers. This was the grind. The son of the greatest wasn't exempt from any of it. If anything, the expectations made the grind harder. After turning pro in 1991, Gary spent nearly a decade chasing full status. He finally earned his PGA Tour card at Q School in November 1999 for the 2000 season, on his 9th attempt at Q School. In 2000, he finally had his breakthrough week at the rain-shortened Bell South Classic, pushing Phil Mickelson to a sudden death playoff. The playoff became a symbol of everything Gary had chased: legitimacy, redemption, a chance to step out of his father's shadow. One hole, winner takes all. Gary fought, but in the end, Mickelson prevailed. The loss was heartbreaking, but the week proved something. Gary Nicklaus could compete at the highest level. For a brief moment, he wasn't just Jack's son, he was Gary Nicklaus, almost a tour champion. He finished that year 119th on the money list, good enough to keep his card. In 2001, he made 12 cuts in 34 starts, with a best finish of T15 at the Memorial, and lost full status at season's end. He returned to Q School and regained his card for 2002, but made just 6 cuts in 26 events. That proved to be his last full PGA Tour season. He played mostly on the developmental tour in 2003 before stepping away from full-time pro golf. In total, there were 122 PGA Tour starts, 33 cuts made, 1 playoff loss, and 0 wins. He did share a special victory with his father, though. The two teamed up to win the 1999 Father-Son Challenge, but that was it. Numbers like these don't capture the emotional toll. Imagine teeing it up, knowing that every bogey, every missed cut, would be measured against your father's 18 majors. It wasn't just Gary playing golf, it was the Nicklaus legacy on trial. Golf writers of the time weren't shy about pointing this out. Some questioned his mental toughness. Others simply said he lacked the killer instinct his father had. Sadly, those criticisms miss the human side. The tour is brutal, even for elite players. Making cuts, traveling non-stop, grinding through qualifiers. Most people don't realize how much failure even great golfers endure. For Gary, that failure was always magnified. Here's the thing. For Gary, the hardest battle was never just against his swing, it was against expectations. Living as Jack's son meant constant comparisons. Even at local events, he couldn't escape questions about his father's records, his swing, his chances. It wasn't malicious, but it was suffocating. It's easy to imagine Gary wondering if people wanted him to succeed or fail more, just so they could say something definitive about Jack's legacy. That kind of pressure chips away at confidence. And golf, perhaps more than any other sport, feeds on confidence. When belief falters, the result mirrors that. Maybe Gary's struggle was not just because he lacked skill, but because every shot carried the weight of legacy. The truth is, Gary's story resonates far beyond golf. It's the universal challenge of living in someone else's shadow, whether in business, sports, or family. How do you define yourself when the world already thinks it knows your story? Eventually, the grind, the pressure, and the endless comparisons got the better of him. But that didn't mean he walked away from golf or the family business. He became deeply involved with Nicklaus companies, helping manage the brand and expanding his father's legacy in golf course design and global business ventures. Instead of chasing birdies, Gary was now building businesses. Interestingly, he never fully gave up on playing. In 2018, Gary regained his amateur status and returned to competing in amateur events, rekindling the joy of golf without the burden of tour life. And when he turned 50, he also began teeing it up on the PGA Tour Champions circuit, playing occasionally against his peers in senior events and keeping his competitive edge alive. That move symbolized a new chapter, not about chasing what could have been, but enjoying what is. Away from the course, Gary has focused on family life and philanthropy, continuing the Nicklaus tradition of giving back. His path proves that stepping away from the tour doesn't mean failure. It simply means writing a different kind of success story. So, how should we remember Gary Nicklaus? His legacy isn't written in trophies, but in perseverance. It's in the willingness to compete despite failing, to accept the weight of a name that wasn't his choice, and to eventually find peace outside the tour. The Bell South Classic remains a reminder that he could have been more, at least in the eyes of golf fans. But perhaps Gary's story teaches something deeper, that greatness isn't always about victories. Sometimes it's about resilience, perspective, and knowing when to pivot. Gary Nicklaus may never have escaped the shadow of the Golden Bear, but he learned how to live within it. And that, in its own way, is a story worth sharing.